Hello everyone. In today's episode, we will do what we set out to do. Build the aggregate storage for the gravel train loading station, and overhaul the entire clothing factory chain. Basically, we will double the actual clothing factories to 4, but we need to rearrange the whole setup to make it work well. Only half of it will be completed in this episode, so we will be back where we started, but the new layout will allow us to expand it further. Other than that, we will continue to build the rail network, add a central warehouse in the town so we can store consumer goods long term, and continue to postpone the completion of the construction yard. As always, let's do a couple small tasks at the start, before we sink our teeth into anything major. First, let's unpause the rail sections we want to continue building. For now, only one side will be built, but eventually, all of it need to be completed. I will sell 2 of these covered hull trucks at the distribution house. They were useful when we had to move a lot of things at the start, but now, all I see is them sitting idle. Replacing them with 2 open hull versions will let us buy bricks and boards faster, boosting construction speeds. Yeah. That was a bit of a rookie mistake. I meant to buy open hull trucks. Silly me. Let's pretend it never happened. I'll add a further 2 dumpers to the iron import line. I'm still postponing the iron mine until the construction yard is done. So more dumpers it is. I'll also add 4 more microbuses to the food factory commuter line. We produce enough, but we can do more. Next, we need to add the aggregate storage. Without it, the gravel loading would only ever draw materials from the processing plant itself, and the internal storage there is too small. We only need to sacrifice one of the already completed conveyors. We'll also need to temporarily sever this power line, as it is in the way a bit. It will be replaced once the plans are laid out. That should work nicely. Next, I want to add the town warehouse. It needs to be fairly central, but still have access to the rail network. Next to the latest heat exchanger should do the trick. Perfect. It's right next to the town center, and it has a clear way out to the rest of the rail network. I'll pause it for now, but we can build a road leading to it. I did want to check if any of the power lines are close to their limits, but they all seem quite healthy. Well, except for the one going to the border, but that's exactly what I want to see from the power export line. Funds are getting a bit low, so let's take out a loan. That excavator reminded me to reconnect the power poles I removed earlier. And to keep the tradition alive, let's pause building the construction yard for a bit, while more important tasks need doing. As I mentioned in the last episode, we need to move the power poles a bit to make room for the new clothing setup. First, we need to set the foreign power connection to import, so we don't suddenly go dark. As far as I can tell, we should still be powering everything important. The steel mill is still supplied by the power plant, and the town is now using foreign electricity. Now the main focus of the episode. The new clothing configuration. First, we need to send the trucks currently supplying the fabric factories home, until their new drop-off points are built. I will only do this for one of the lines. We will have 2 fabric factories, but in the beginning only one of them will be working. We can buy new trucks for the second one when it's finished. So, the trucks from the first line are all heading to their depot, and I will just sell the other 5 from the second line. Next, I'll need to send away the 2 distribution trucks from the warehouse. And I will need to make sure we still supply our citizens with clothes, so I'll change the customs house to purchase, instead of selling them. And that's that. I'll quickly clean up the leftover ground textures, and we can get to work. Let's start by placing the first clothing factory. And make sure we are following the grid, so everything is nice and orderly. Next, we need a fabric factory, which will supply 2 of its neighbors. Only need to make sure all the necessary connections are lined up. And here comes the second clothing factory. It is facing away from the road. I don't think it was necessary, but it breaks up uniformity a little. Next up, the central warehouse that all 4 will feed into. We only have 5 factory connections on it, and we have 6 production facilities in this setup. So I decided to not bother with connecting the fabric factories, and just worry about the end product. We just barely managed to squeeze in that gravel road connection. That was lucky. Instead of making 90-degree connections, this time I will angle them a little, since they should only ever see traffic in one direction. Anyways, I only wanted to see if they'll fit. We'll decide how to connect things up once everything's in place. Now comes the other side. Same basic idea. 1 fabric factory in the middle, supplying 2 clothing facilities, both of which feed straight into the warehouse. I really need to pay attention as to how I place these. I need to make sure I can connect it to the warehouse, and the fabric factory too. For now, I'll pause building the ones I place on the other side. We can deal with them once the first trio is finished. Working on bumpy ground really makes things a bit tricky. And the final piece of the puzzle. Again, need to make sure both of the important connections are possible to place. Whoops! I got so used to working on level ground, that I didn't even notice that the building was yellow. I just need to do a bit of leveling, and we should be good. Well, unless all the bulldozers are busy doing something else. We have 1 back in the garage, but I'll buy 1 more. We'd need to do it sooner or later anyways. Okay, that should be more than enough to place the last factory. And all the important connections are in place. The fabric comes from the middle, gets processed on the sides, and the final goods get fed into the warehouse. Just like before. Let's do something about the roads. That should do nicely. All the materials are on site for the power poles. Hopefully, we can start selling power again soon. Next, we need to make sure workers can still use this bus stop to reach everything. So a gravel footpath on this side is very important. We cannot cross factory connections, so we need to go on the outside. This should allow us to reach 2 of the factories. We can deal with the third one from the other side. And here we go. We can start selling power again. Oh right. We need to finish the road before we can start building this one. I'll try to see if we can use footpaths for this purpose, but doesn't seem so. Oh well. It will be done a little bit later. No biggie. Hey, the gravel storage was built, and it's already filling up nicely. Let's see how we can deal with the rail connection for the warehouse. I wanted to see if I can somehow use the oil drop-off station's branch to hook into, but decided against it. At least for now. I'll build a whole new branch, but I might change it later. Speaking of the oil station, I just realized that we are getting quite close to it becoming useful, so I'll quickly measure out the distance for the pre-station crossing. Yes, I know we are a bit short, so I will need to extend the length a little in the next episode. But I'll place the crossing nonetheless. We can simply change the junction to be parallel with the main line for a bit before merging. That will take care of the length issue. Now, the thing I wanted to do to begin with. Unfortunately, the 150-meter mark is right on top of the road. But we can compensate by using shorter trains and higher numbers if necessary. Either way, this is a relatively low volume product, so we might get away with using a single train that isn't full length anyway. Since we need to extend the length of the oil branch, we might end up using that junction for this line too. We will decide in the next episode, I guess. I can't remove the nodes because one side of this is already finalized. Oh well. Almost pressed the rubles button there. Glad I caught myself. We have quite a queue in front of the customs house. Once we start using trains, it will hopefully ease some of that traffic. I never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad that station caught fire. I didn't realize before that it's not in range of the power plant. If it turns out to be unusable without electricity, we will have to build a switch, so we can leech some power off the line going to the quarries. And it made me worried that some of the more distant factories might also be out of range. I'll make a quick check with a random building, because I didn't have the luxury of rewinding the footage in the editor at the time. Yeah, the factories are fine. But it seems just barely. Since we are doing crossings anyways, I'll quickly build the one for the gravel pickup too. I'm fairly certain it's long enough, but I'll measure it out, just in case. Yeah, we have more than enough room for a train to queue in. Let's get everything done. I'll do the town warehouse branch too. It seems a piece of pipe got left behind from the old construction yard plans. The first fabric factory is about to be built. After that, we can put the old trucks back on the treadmill. Since we're driving along, let's restore the soil that got packed down by the old service connection. And the first one is done. 6 more to go, including the warehouse. As I said, I'll quickly update the route plan of the old import trucks, and release them back into the wild. And that should do it. There will be plenty of fabric ready to go by the time these clothing facilities start up. I'll quickly double check that all trucks are still configured correctly, and then leave them to it. And I just noticed that the footpath on the southern side of the setup is done. Checking with the bus stop, it seems everything we wanted to be in range, is in range. We only need to place down one more walkway, and in theory, it's ready to go. If all goes well, this should take care of everything. I'm just glad we can go over train tracks with footpaths without much hassle. Since this is the last piece we really need to check that it works correctly, let's follow its construction. This excavator is coming from all the way across the Republic. The workers alone will take care of things before it gets even remotely close. Yeah, we just got a second worker drop-off. They work fast on these low-effort constructions. And everything is in range. As far as I can tell, this setup should work rather nicely. As I said in the last episode, it's not a perfect ratio in terms of input and output, I think fabrics are still going to be overproduced a little. But for that, we have 2 trucks waiting in the local depot, so that shouldn't be a problem. And the first clothing factory was finished while I wasn't looking. Once the warehouse is done, I'll update the old clothing distribution line, and start making some money again. Speaking of warehouses, we don't really need to build this yet, it only siphons valuable resources away from the one that we do need to build quickly. This queue in front of the customs house is starting to become an issue. We really need to get trains running soon. And I just noticed that we are past the electric supply station, and the rail network is now under power. There are still a lot of yellow signs littered around the place, but they are all for unfinished tracks. I really hope we can start running trains soon. Before I forget, I need to sell the 4 buses still going straight to the rail CO. The ugly ducklings we bought at the end of the last episode should take care of things now. Now the warehouse only needs a roof, and it will be ready to accept freshly made clothes from the factories. If everything goes well, 3 deliveries should take care of everything resource-wise. There go 1 batch of boards, and we are about to pick up a few tons of bricks. Yep, that should be all the bricks we need. Only need a second delivery of planks, and it is done. Unfortunately, it seems the CO chose the same truck to do the last delivery, so it needs to go all the way back the same route to pick up what's left. That will take a little while. The factory is already full of clothes ready to go. But we are so close to completing the warehouse, I only want to update the distribution route once. And the second factory is in its final stretch too. All the materials are delivered, so our workers only need to make those workdays go down. And the truck managed to procure all the boards we need. We'll be back to where we started very soon. And done. Time to update the distribution line, and start making some money again. Putting the pickup at the end should still do the trick. Don't worry, I'll notice that the customs house is still set to loading really soon, so it won't be an issue for long. Not really necessary, but I'll make sure we can only store clothes in the warehouse. With the first 3 factories all built, we can unpause the other 3. Once they are done, our clothing exports will double. And since they are not a priority, I will also unpause the construction yard and town warehouse. They can be built together. Well, it seems we left the customs house on purchase mode. Silly me. That should take care of it. Once they get rid of all the foreign clothes in their hulls, we can start making money in earnest. And here comes the first empty truck to pick up properly homemade clothes. 13,000 rubles. Inflation is starting to set in. I remember a full truckload being 9,000 at the start. And we are past 4,000 citizens. We were at 3,000 not that long ago. That would explain why we see a small drop in overall happiness. I bet the town store is severely overloaded at this point. Okay. I don't think I'll wait for this queue to clear, just to see the clothes being sold. At this point, I decided to stop building this side of the main line, and concentrate entirely on the one going towards the oil fields. The turnarounds still have a power sign for some reason. I guess just to let me know that electric locomotives cannot go there. Wow. These EDKs work fast. I remember the old ADMUs struggling to reach the 3-way intersection for a couple episodes. I kind of wish I didn't do this just yet, but I'll unpause the fire station with its helipad. They will tie up material deliveries quite a bit, since they are so far away. Wish I was more patient. But you know, hindsight is 20/20. Anyways, I think it's time we started upgrading the roads around the construction yard. Trucks spend way too long on these dirt paths. In hindsight, maybe starting with gravel right away may have been the better option. That should give us more than enough service connections to pave everything up until the COs. Well, that's me and my perfectionist tendencies. I didn't like that the road had a superfluous node in it, so I decided to just redraw the whole thing. That will end up causing more trouble than I hoped. Of course, the dirt road is now too busy to simply delete it. Time to speed things up a little. There. All this trouble because I didn't like that node. The resulting road is a bit gentler with its turns though, so I guess it wasn't all for nothing. I'll also upgrade one of the driveways, and once it's done, I'll transfer all the vehicles over, and do the other side. While looking at the list of active constructions, I noticed that we still didn't give the oil area a proper name. Sure. That will do. We still need to finish a factory connection on the warehouse. The truck can go for an incomplete run. I want to keep an eye on the construction yard's progress, so I'll go around and enable notifications on every building. That way I'll know once things start getting built. Well, maybe not the firehouse. I'm more and more convinced that it will be a temporary building, until the helicopter is ready to go. There should be only 2 rail segments under construction, but we have 3 in the list. Let's see which one is unnecessary. There it is. It seems I made a mistake somewhere when I tried to pause everything on this side of the main line. It seems I accidentally unpaused some of the underground stuff when I started building the helipad. Oh well, they'll need to be done sooner or later anyways. These roads are starting to take shape. Once they are done, it will give us quite a bit of a boost. Again, I wish I didn't use dirt, and use gravel from the start. I bet we would be way further along by now. We are definitely overproducing the fabric still. I'll add them to the local DO once the second is up and running. And the town warehouse is about to be finished. We will soon start operating more than 1 retail stores in the town, so having a central location from which we can distribute stuff will make things so much easier. That short driveway is done, so I'll start moving vehicles over. Most of them are away on errands, so I'll take a quick look to see which ones we can still send to their new home, without causing too many delays. This roller is only here to do a short factory connection, so I'll let it do its thing and send it over later. While I'm here, I'll also make sure that people arriving at the bus stop can only go to active facilities. Right now, they can also go to construction sites, but I don't want them to do that. I don't know why it allows me to send people to the conveyor engine. Weird. Anyways, that should be everything. And the factory connection got built while I did all that, so the roller should be back at base. And it seems the road crane also finished building something, so I'll send it over now, and it can go wherever it wanted to go next. Only one truck and the excavator remains. The truck is easy to deal with. Judging by its list of stops, it was already heading home. And the excavator is busy with the helipad. I'll let it do its thing, and send it over after it's done. Real shame about that 800 kilograms of asphalt still missing. That will delay things a bit. There. A dumper was assigned, so it should be coming soon. Thankfully, it managed to pick up everything we needed. And it seems the town warehouse is done. It only needs a rail connection, and it's ready to go. I'll make sure it can only store what's needed in the town, just to be safe, in case I mess a line up for some reason. Plus it will prevent one of the goods to occupy more space than necessary, crowding out the others. That dumper with the asphalt is almost at the helipad. And it's done. The very first helipad of the Republic. That's a pretty noteworthy milestone. Of course, having a helicopter on it would be better, but that's for a bit later. And of course that same truck gets assigned to deliver gravel to the road. That will delay things quite a bit. We have nothing better to do. So let's follow this guy. Ever since we started selling clothes again, our finances made a pretty spectacular comeback. I mentioned before that the town store might be overloaded. And indeed it is. Quite heavily at that. We definitely need to build a second one. Next to the new kindergarten should do fine, that's where the next service center should go anyways. And the school is also getting a bit too crowded these days. Finally. That's the last gravel delivery we need to finish this road. Happy days. This will speed things up quite a bit. Once this fabric factory is up and running, we are literally back to where we started with the clothing production. Good thing we have 2 more factories under construction. And here comes the last bit of steel we need to finish. Now we just need a few workers to finish things up. I should have done it earlier, but I'll stop building the fire station for now. There we go. All this effort, just to double our clothing exports. Let's hope we don't end up driving the international prices down too much. Because we sold the old trucks, I'll buy new ones. Since they need to go around, the trip is a bit longer, so I'll buy 6 instead of the original 5. First, I'll set up the line itself. Pick up crops and chemicals at the border, and drop them off at the fabric factory. Next, I'll do the advanced setup that served us so well before. I'll set the truck cargo allocation to only accept 90% crops, and 10% chemicals, so we can deliver both at the same time. Once they are ready to go, I'll let them go about their business. Of course, I will double check all of them to make sure I didn't mess anything up. Everything looks good. Except I forgot to enable line spacing. I'll make a note of it for next time. I'll also check the old trucks, because I'm paranoid like that. At this point, I'll also reassign the 2 fabric factories to the local DO, so any excess fabrics can be picked up and sold at the border for a bit of pocket change. Selling everything above 20% should be okay. And they are off. Instead of adding it to the bus station as possible destination for arriving workers, I'll simply allow people to go wherever they please from now on. The 2 last factories are well on their way, so let's just get them over with a bit quicker. Speaking of that bus stop, I think it's time to upgrade the commuter line going to it. Until now, we used 6 of these Skoda 706s, but these KSM11s are a bit faster, and they can carry 2 more passengers. I'll buy 8 and see how far that gets us. Next time, I really want to get the construction yard done and over with. And I'm looking forward to using trains, hopefully in the next episode, but no promises. Upgrading the town is also a thing we need to think about now, especially the heating infrastructure. I don't know where I want to place it yet, possibly somewhere near the steel mill, so we can take advantage of the local bus stop and coal supply. Apart from that, we also need to start upgrading the town services. The school was having a couple students waiting around earlier, and I'm sure the cinema is also at its limits by now. Childcare should be okay, But I'll keep an eye on unemployment, as that's a good way to see when it's time to build a new one. I will also need to start tinkering with the rails a bit, to make sure I'm happy with how things are laid out. Maybe add a couple overpasses where I deem it necessary. Maybe even start experimenting with some other forms of junctions, not just the plain one I've been using all this time. Anyways, I hope you liked the video. If you did, dropping a like and subscribing to the channel just might motivate me to make more. Until then, see you later.